here we are. We have the first game for the world champion Gukesh playing with the white pieces against the local hero Giri. And yeah, it's Tata Steel 2025. What will the world champion play? Apparently he has been fresh off the flight and he might not be feeling so fresh at all, but this is the first round. He does his usual thing. He sorts out every piece. It's a ritual he goes through. We saw this at the World Chess Championships against Ding Liren. He takes his time and adjusts every single piece. And his opponent, of course, Giri, just completely ignores him, tries to stay calm and relaxed, focused for the game. And then after all the adjustments, Gukesh will go into his meditation mode, closing his eyes. And this is exciting times. First game of the event, first official game of the world champion, the youngster. How is this epic clash going to go?
Good luck and enjoy.
So both sides getting ready for the start. Shake of hands, and here we go. Knight to f3, a nice calm start. Probably doesn't want to get into a huge theoretical battle. Knight f6 played. Gukesh takes his time, thinks how to respond. Is he going to play in English with c4? Is he going to go d4? He's got a lot of options. Will he go g3 perhaps? Keep his options open. And g3 it is. Pawn to g3, keeping things flexible. Giri responds immediately with pawn to d5. Bishop g2 played. And black is free to do whatever he wants to for now. Black goes pawn to c5. And here Gukesh has a lot of options. First of all, he castles his king. And Giri responds with knight to c6. And of course, at this moment, white probably needs to decide what to do now. Is he gonna go pawn to d3 in a King's Indian setup? Is he gonna go pawn to c4 in a Benoni? Or will he go pawn to d4 like a Grunfeld? Essentially, Grunfeld is a reversed Catalan, so probably d4 will most likely go into a Catalan. Gukesh takes his time. Giri is already off his chair. And pawn to d4 played. So now we see a reverse Grunfeld. Black can take on d4 if he wants. We will see knight takes d4. The Bravo will see c4 eventually. What will black do? Giri gets back to his seat. And he responds with pawn to e6. Very solid. And are we going to see pawn to c4 back into a Catalan main line? And Gukesh goes pawn to c4. So we are in a Catalan main line. Giri rushes to grab on c4. And white has options here. White can go d takes c5, a more quiet endgame, well known. Or will white go queen a4, but more ambitious? D takes c5 or queen to a4. Gukesh takes his time. And he decides on queen to a4. But more ambitious. Bit of a surprise actually, since he might not have all the energy landing in the Netherlands not too long ago. But the world champion is ambitious as ever. Queen to a4. Giri plays bishop d7, a common response to that. Here white can play queen takes c4 or d takes c5. Queen takes c4 probably will be followed with pawn to b5. And Gukesh, a bit of a small surprise, I suppose. D takes c5, not the main move, but certainly seen before. Giri just ponders a bit, checking his old files perhaps in his memory bank. There's bishop takes c5, there's also knight a5, but he opts for bishop takes c5, the natural response. Gukesh takes on c4, hitting the bishop, and black retreats his bishop to e7. So now white has some options, maybe knight c3, maybe rook to d1, very natural moves, and knight c3 played. Giri very much away from the board a lot. He returns, and he will most likely play the natural castling move. Perhaps rook c8 is another option. What will he do? And he castles. So both players pacing themselves nicely. Gukesh taking a sip, pondering what to do next. Is he going to play rook d1? Are there any other options? Giri again away from the board. Giri seems to be very much in his preparations. Perhaps not expecting the Catalan. Maybe it was one of his expectations. But e4 played by Gukesh. e4 played, and an interesting change to the position. This now gives the queen a retreat square to e2. Giri plays rook c8, eyeing the queen, and we can expect Gukesh to retreat his queen to e2 most likely. Queen to e2 played, and a very interesting position we have on the board. White has a bit more space. Pawn on e4, bishop will get developed somewhere in the near future. A rook will land on d1, and Anish Giri plays bishop to c5, perhaps vacating the square for his queen, anticipating a rook getting to d1. So now Gukesh really taking his time here. Gukesh already more than a half an hour behind on the clock, and Giri seems very comfortable walking around a lot. After a deep think, the world champion plays bishop to g5. A bit of a surprise. Bishop f4 was possible, even pawn to e5. Pawn to e5, knight d5. Some interesting choices, but black seems to be doing okay there. Instead, the world champion played bishop g5, and Giri seems a bit puzzled. This is an interesting choice, very interesting choice, as the obvious response is pawn to h6. But what will white do after that? Will white give up the bishop after h6? Maybe e5. Black seems to be doing okay in this line. Is this what the world champion has in mind? So Giri takes his time, and surely he is contemplating the principled pawn to h6. Bit of doubt, scratch of the head, typical chess player reaction, just double checking. And of course, one needs to double check if you are playing the world champion. Does he have something up his sleeve? Pawn to h6 played. Will Gukesh trade bishop for knight? Seems a bit illogical to drop back to f4 or e3, giving black the tempo. What is white's idea? Sinks into the position. Surely he should have anticipated pawn to h6, so he's definitely just double checking his follow-up. Is he going to give up his bishop for the knight on f6? And bishop to h4 played. Wow. Bishop to h4 played. And this, of course, invites black to play pawn to g5 and trap the bishop. And white will be practically forced to sacrifice a piece for 2 pawns. What a continuation by the world champion. Is this just pure confidence? Is he bluffing? What is happening? And Giri goes into deep thought, trying to make sense of everything. Why is he about to win a piece? The only risk, of course, is black is going to open up his king, and he has to make sure that his king will be safe enough in the next few moves. And he goes for it. Pawn to g5. He accepts the invitation, and the world champion needs to prove that the piece sacrifice is indeed enough. He, of course, captures. Giri rushes back, seems to be more off the board than on or at the board. He accepts. And things are really getting interesting here. In the first round of the Tata Steel 2025, the world champion sacrifices a piece for almost, it seems, almost nothing. For 2 pawns, the king is open. And Giri finds a very nice pawn to e5. There were other options in the position. Perhaps the natural looking bishop e7 was a mistake. After e5, knight a7, bishop h6 threatening queen g4 check. White would have a nice initiative. But Giri finds a strong move. And after e5, very strong move, Gukesh plays queen to d2. Queen eyeing the diagonal. Perhaps bishop h6 and queen g5 is in the air. Giri contemplates. Not particularly convinced. And he goes bishop e7, breaking the pin. And he looks very confident. Off he goes again. The world champion is back from a break. Got something to nibble on. Get his energy. This is going to be a long, hard battle. And what does he have in this position? Bishop h6, hitting the rook, of course, threatening queen g5, queen g7 mate. And Giri finds a lovely move, king to h7. Cutting out the checkmating combination, getting ready to play rook g8. And of course, Gukesh accepts the rook on f8. Cashes back in on the material. Giri takes back quickly with the bishop. Maybe not the best move. Queen takes was even better. Getting the queen closer to the king, and after a move like rook 8 to d1 or even the aggressive f4, black can play queen h6, and there are problems here for white. And black's king would be super safe. Instead, bishop takes f8 was played. And pawn to f4. White is trying to open up more lines toward the king. Giri plays a very nice bishop to e6. He is defending very accurately and very powerfully. Bishop to e6, offering a trade of queens. White, of course, does not want to trade at the moment. And he goes knight to d5, blocking the d file. A lot of tension in the position, pieces looking at each other. So white has a bit of pressure on the surface. Knight to b4, another great move by black. And Giri is off again. He seems confident, putting a lot of pressure on the knight. How will the world champion respond? He has to open up lines. He captures on e5. And this is not a particular great scenario here. for white. Giri finds a very nice knight to g4. There was another option over here. He could have captured a couple of times on d5 with a solid looking position. The king is safe with the bishop on f8. Instead, he goes for knight to g4, and Gukesh is pondering what to do next. Rook a to d1, supporting the knight, and also threatening the sneaky knight f6 check. King to h8, very accurate by Giri, avoiding the check. And Gukesh rushes to get his king off the diagonal. Perhaps not the most accurate. Queen f4 immediately would have been better. Rook c2 played, and this is the problem with king h1. Rook c2 hitting the queen, and black is starting to get an initiative. This is nervy stuff. Gukesh down to seconds. He plays queen f4. He needs to stay in touch with the f2 square. Giri is down to 10 minutes. Gukesh is desperately fighting to keep the initiative. Knight takes knight on d5. And unfortunately, white cannot capture on d5. He goes queen to f3, keeping the pin. Instead, if he had captured, bishop takes d5, and a queen sacrifice would have actually won the game very nicely, and black would win the piece. Instead, queen to f3 was played, queen b6, and pawn takes d5. And the scramble is getting intense. Rook f2. Where will the queen go? You cannot capture. Knight takes f2 and check, and the rook drops. Gukesh down to less than a minute again. They are hanging on increment here. Giri at least on 4 minutes and 20 seconds. The world champion is down to 36 seconds. What to do? The world champion is known to be calm under these circumstances. He often uses enough time to figure out what to do. 20 seconds and counting. Where should the queen go? Giri seems very focused and ready. Queen to c3 played, perhaps thinking about when the bishop moves, pawn to e6 check will happen. And there's a very nice move here. Giri plays bishop b4. That's a mistake. Instead, he could have played bishop to f5. And after e6 check, there's a beautiful variation that he must probably. There's a queen offer, but f8 check, queen f8 check, but king h7, and this would lead to a win for black. Instead, bishop b4 was played, queen c1, and bishop f5 was played. Same position, but now the queen on c1 can move toward the black king, and Gukesh has some hopes of bothering the exposed black king. A lot of pieces roaming around, so much tension, so much possibilities. Again, the world champion hovering at about 40 seconds. Giri has joined him with a 1 minute and 1 second left. What to do? The world champion again taking his time, less than 30 seconds. Glances over to the clock, double checking how many seconds left. He seems nervous. It's not looking too good for him. What to do? Cannot capture on f2, the knight will jump in. Pushing the pawns are too slow. He goes queen g5. Inching closer to the black king. Giri needs to make sure there's no perpetual, nothing funny happening. Very tidy move, bishop to f8, keeping the king even more safe, not allowing any funny business. And here the best move probably is queen to h5, check, with potential of drawing. And king g8 and e6, and you can see the tension on f7 with chaos on the board. 10 seconds and counting. What will Gukesh play? He goes queen h4. This seems to be a blunder. This allows black to continue with some nice possibilities. The queen on h4 is not pressing on f7, so there won't be any issues. After king g8 and pawn to e6, black would be okay. Will Giri find king to g8? All the possibilities are still in the position. Queen takes b2 is there. Bishop h6 was played and rook to e1. So Giri doesn't find king g8. He goes bishop h6. Rook to e1. Queen takes b2. And the bishop on g2 is hanging. It's looking very nice here for black. But maybe white can capture on f2. Maybe white can get away with taking on f2 and hold on. So rook takes f2 is perhaps the way to go here. The world champion down to 10 seconds. What will he do? He has to respond. Pawn to h3 was played. It's a blunder. Rook takes f2 was the move. h3 was played. How will Giri respond? Why is this a blunder? He's expecting rook takes g2, h takes g4, covers h2. Bishop e4 is played and rook takes f2 was played. Instead, bishop e4, brilliant move. If rook takes e4, rook takes f1, bishop takes and mate. And if bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, then we have rook takes f1 and another mate. Instead, after rook takes f2, takes check, king g1 was played. And what now? How to continue? Will Giri find the winning move? There's an only move here that wins the game. A beautiful move. Knight to g4 wins the game on the spot. Threatening mate on g2. And if rook takes e4, then queen b6 check and queen b1 with a beautiful mate. Will Giri find this move over here? Knight g4, bishop takes e4, queen f2, and then queen h2 will be mate as well. Will Giri find the way to go? He's got a few seconds left as well. Will he find the winning move? The only move. Queen to b6, he comes back. It's a blunder. He's protecting the h6 bishop, but now Gukesh has a chance to trade off queens. Will he find it? Gukesh takes his time. He's got more than a minute on the clock. He can figure this one out. He seems focused. Double checking his variations. And knight g4 was a killer blow. Perhaps he saw it. Maybe he's a bit relieved. Still seems nervous. Will he find the move to quiet the attack down? And he finds it. Queen f6 check. Forces the trade of queens. And now black is running out of steam over here. And the white king is safe. And you can see it in Anish Giri's face. Oh no. He realizes it. And that was a big mistake, allowing the trade of queens. And the game is fizzling out, and the world champion has just dodged a huge bullet. King takes g2. Black has two minor pieces for the rook and two pawns. But unfortunately, the passed d pawn is just too dangerous. Check, king h7, and the passed d pawn. Surely Gukesh, the world champion, is going to convert this one easily. He gets up. Also, both players reaching the time control. They've got more time now to breathe. And Gukesh coming back, grabbing something to bite. Usually that happens after the time control has been reached. Players rush off to the restroom. And the world champion just taking his time. He has enough time, so he takes his time and he makes sure he plays a nice move, hitting the knight. The knight is the only piece that can stop the passed pawn from queening. And the champion, the world champion, he is confident. Anish Giri goes back to d7, blockading for the moment. Of course, rook to e7, hitting the knight. And when the knight moves, pawn is going to march forward. And it's over, ladies and gentlemen. This is it. Giri extends his hand, and that is that. Well done, and brilliant, brilliant exhibition by both players. Crazy stuff. And now they are discussing the game.
With the knight, yeah. We had that position. I had knight g4, yeah. Yeah, I was waiting there just for knight g4. I didn't see it.
Maybe king was on h7.
No, it's not sure.
Because knight f2, king g1, you played queen b6, right?
Queen f6 check, you want.
Maybe knight g4, queen d8?
Can just...
rook e4, bishop e8. No.
Rook e4. Yeah, bishop e3.
Rook e8.
And so on. Queen e3.
No, king h1, queen.
Queen f3. Jesus, I just had the but I already thought I messed it up. I didn't see move anymore.
Yeah, it was just complicated.
But I mean, you're kind of lost here the whole time, I think. I mean, I have many ways to bail out before. I mean, to play like better position. Just think this.
You probably mixed up something.
I thought you could take maybe on e7 instead of so to go on e5. Bishop e7. Take rook d1 instead of queen d2. I wouldn't go on d5. Bishop e7, maybe some queen e7 would you want?
Yeah, knight d.
Rook d4, e d5, rook e8, queen f3.
Queen f2.
Yeah, just thinking about this.
Yeah, and this queen.
Yeah, I think this is kind of at least equal for you.
Knight d5 if you have knight d.
Queen d2.
Bishop e7.
Now you take bishop h4.
King h7.
Queen g5.
Rook c7.
f4.
Rook g.
Queen e5.
Take. Knight g4.
Yeah, this looks unclear to me.
But I could have gotten this even without a queen. Ah, no.
I could have gotten it without it.
Yeah, you could have.
I think it's okay for me.
Yeah, I was not sure. Maybe there's something else.
Bishop e4. Just a winning position in front of me. But I just panicked. I thought I messed up already. I mean, rook outside of king g. Yeah, I saw someone who played h3. I first thought you missed bishop e4. Then I saw rook f2. Then I tried to find the win. I spent all my time. I really panicked. That's okay, let me anyway play bishop e4. You took rook g1. And I didn't. I thought this is like ruined it.
Also maybe h3 rook f.
No, take bishop e4, queen d8, rook f7. This is not so bad.
Ah, yeah, that's all.
No, that's why I call bishop e4, take the king g1. Yeah, no, knight g4 is just meaningless, but yeah. Jesus. So stupid. It's right there in front of my face, yeah. The position is right there. Not even from far. And because I was thinking about queen d, because I'm pretty desperate, queen d2, spent all my time with that. I think it's lost rook e4 and then queen e4. So then I just panicked into some move. Even though I saw queen f6, just okay, I didn't have time, just need something. And knight g4, the only move here to save and to win, yeah?
Or bishop g2.
Queen h6.
Yeah, and then I take the knight.
No, knight g4 is a good move here.
Yeah.